Okay, so reaction to October and November data. Already a shaky jobs market taking another hit. Where are we as a nation right now? Is this, as Trump said last week, an A plus 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 economy?
I mean, certainly not. October, in our view, was a Washington problem with government shutdown. November was a real economy, and it appears to be moving sideways, but not falling apart.
Expand on that just a bit.
Well, October payrolls dropped by about 105,000, while November had a slight bounce of about 64,000. Unemployment rose to 4.6%. Uh, Underemployment, which was the interesting number for us, jumped by about a million to 5.5 million for people who are underemployed or part time for economic reasons. And wage growth cooled. Average hourly earnings were only up 3.5%, above inflation, but not as much as it has been in the past.
Overall, from an economic standpoint, over the weekend I read the Wall Street is bullish on 2026 moving forward. I know the market isn't always a great thermostat in how the economy is doing, but certainly that has to be positive.
Yeah, the lower interest rate environment that we continue to be appearing to head into will make people with portfolio assets, feel wealthy or wealthier, at least as we stand today. So I think that does matter. But for the percentage of Americans who are seeing, wage growth cool and harder to find new employment, it's going to be a tale of two cities, really.
Michael, that sense of how people feel, we can't overstate how important that is. It can be a big drag on the economy. It can also boost it to a degree. And with consumer spending, consumer confidence, just not what it has been in years past, especially moving in to this holiday. What are the potentials, though, for entering the new year? Do you think that this could be a real drag moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest measure that we're looking at is a second order measure. So, underemployment, labor participation breadth, because payrolls may stay choppy with policy noise. And you know how these numbers have been adjusted in the past. So, again, wage growth cooling is going to be another factor that we look at. And then, consumer sentiment has been interesting because that seems to move with the political winds, but they'll still spend $120 on Lululemon pants. It's a matter of, will the consumer's kind of angst actually flow through into spending in a meaningful way?
You also talked at the start about how October's information was a government problem. But let's break down some of the 2025 trends, starting with Doge. What was the mission? Where does it stand now? Was it a failure?
Well, in my view, I don't think it was the best use of anyone's time. It appears to have been disbanded early, according to reports by Reuters and AP. Musk even called it somewhat successful, but he wouldn't do it again. That's not the kind of confidence I would have in a successful program, right? So their pitch was Silicon Valley speed for the government, and it appears you just can't do it that easily.
Yeah, going in with a giant hacksaw when people said a scalpel really was what people needed. And also, there was a big push among government and private sector to get workers back into the office, quit working from home. That has improved. There are a lot more people working in the office. Which group do you think has been the most affected? And do you think it's going to add any kind of stimulus, or are people really going to miss this opportunity to work at home, do what they want to do, but still get their job done?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I met someone last week who was still working three full-time jobs, doing them all remote. So that I know it. I was like, wow, really? But
I
so
wouldn't
that
brag
trend is
about
still.
that.
Yeah, well, they're a close friend. We won't report their name. But it is interesting to see how some of these trends have also hurt women, right?
Right.
Especially younger mothers, where if they were dragged back into the office to a higher degree, you're also seeing some firms kind of just like sugarcoat it, meaning like, hey, check in the office 2 days a week. I know plenty of people who in Boston who scan their badge and leave shortly after.
Yeah, now that I do believe. Okay, artificial intelligence, the two most important words in the U.S. economy right now. Without AI, many wonder just how bad things would really be because clearly it propped up the market in the second half of the year. Do you have concerns about an AI bubble and about AI really turning a profit in the near future?
Yeah, it's a large concern. But, if you're a year off your concerns, you could miss out on 20% upside as well. I think the spending in next year looks relatively safe. It's kind of in 2027 and beyond where I have greater concerns, right? Some of these promised data build outs years in the future with hundreds of millions of dollars potentially invested, a lot of that stuff could have its brakes pumped with little warning.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing to watch. Let me get your quick look into the crystal ball and tell me what you see for 2026.
Yeah, AI won't replace most workers, at least not in the short term. But workers using AI will replace workers who aren't. That's going to be a big theme. I think AI for a lot of folks was like a trinket in 2025 and 2024, more of a toy, and you're going to see it become more part of solid corporate infrastructure going into 2026. 2026 is also going to be about whether this is an orderly cooling or whether unemployment turns into or underemployment turns into just straight up job losses.
Yeah, I like that orderly